ask questions and find out, what the benefits are. Before we get going, though, I'd like to just set, there is a lot of gas in this area. It's different. There's gas in this area, I won't say a lot. It took 15 years to get it out on the south side. It didn't come this fast. But there is gas already in this area, and I think that many of you folks here are already heating their homes. And there are other systems out there. We've had coal years ago. We've got coal yards down the west end. And we've got petroleum, we've got diesel, and number two, the heavy stuff that had been burned first, all of which are not very clean. We now have the potential, we have gas, which is cleaner of all the fossil fuels we have. Practicality of gas being here, might be would be a very big benefit, I think, to this corridor between, say, Sydney and right down here. Anyway, with that, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Matt Swift. He's the project manager of the gas pipeline. He'll introduce the people he has to talk. We do have some transportation company people here, some leather stocking. We'd ask nicely, I don't believe they showed up. We have Senator Seward here. Senator Lopez is going to be here. We have a number of county reps and town reps and mayors. I'm not going to get into that because I'll just screw it up. Anyway,
Thank you. I'll introduce the people from our team that are here today. Again, I'm Matthew Swift. I'm the project manager for the Constitution Pipeline. Here we have Chris Goffel in our public outreach. Kelly Robinson with AECOM. She's with our environmental consultant with AECOM. Ryan O'Higgins, he's our director of project management. I work in that department of project management. A few questions before I start. Who has not heard of the Constitution Pipeline? Anybody not heard of it? Who knows a little bit about it? Who knows a lot about it? Who knows where it starts, where it stops, how big it is? Okay. First slide is just about the general overview about the natural gas pipeline industry itself. Just looking at this map, this is all the interstate gas pipelines that are in the United States. And what that really shows is how much demand there is for this gas, how much the American people want natural gas. That's why the pipelines were built, because of the demand by the people here for natural gas. We have about 300,000 miles of gathering lines and interstate pipelines, gas pipelines in the United States. Almost 5,000 miles of interstate transmission lines here in this state, in New York State. Electrical generation. That number is creeping up very high in terms of the amount of electrical generation that's fueled by natural gas. It used to, last number I saw was 25%, now it's up to 35%, and it's growing. It continues to grow. It just shows again how much demand there is for natural gas, because natural gas, it's domestic and it's very abundant here domestically. It's very affordable and it's very clean burning. It's the cleanest burning fossil fuel there is. So here at Williams Constitution Pipeline, we think it's an excellent solution to the energy needs here in the United States. Now some details on the Constitution Pipeline itself. Constitution Pipeline, it's a partnership. It's a 75% owned by Williams, which we work for Williams, and it's 25% owned by Cabot. Cabot's a producer. They're very heavy in the northern tier of Pennsylvania. And not only is Cabot a 25% owner, they're also the biggest customer on this pipeline. Williams itself operates 15,000 miles of interstate gas pipelines. And we supply about 12% of the nation's natural gas, all the Williams gas pipelines. We have three right now. We have the Transco pipeline on the eastern seaboard, Northwest Pipeline Seattle and Portland, and the Gulf Stream pipeline that feeds many, many power plants in Florida. Since Williams is an interstate, we're in the interstate gas pipeline business, and the Constitution pipeline is an interstate gas pipeline, it just makes sense that Williams will be the constructor and the operator of the pipeline. We'll go through the whole, Williams will design the pipeline, route it, permit it, go through the environmental process, go through the process with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to actually permit the project, we'll then construct it, and then throughout the life of the pipeline, which I think will be very, very long, we will be operating and maintaining the pipeline. It will be our Williams' responsibility, which, as I said, makes sense because we're in that business. Our proposed pipeline project is, in dollar terms, it's a $750 million project to design, permit, and build and construct a pipeline. The pipeline itself is 121 miles in length, 30-inch in diameter. It's designed for a pressure rating of 1,480 psi, pounds per square inch. Its flow rate is 650 million cubic feet per day. That's the equivalent of heating 3 million homes. And hopefully, some of those homes are along this pipeline route. That's what we're working with Leather about. The pipeline does start down in Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, the northern tier of Pennsylvania. It crosses into New York State. There are 4 counties that the pipeline will traverse through. That's Broome, Chenango, Delaware, and Schoharie. Associated with the pipeline, at the beginning of the pipeline, we will have 2 what we call meter stations. And meter stations are just interconnects with producers to measure the gas as they supply gas into the pipeline. There'll be 2 interconnects in Susquehanna County. One will be at Cabot will be supplying, out of the 650 million cubic feet per day, Cabot will be supplying 500 million of the 650. And then Southwestern will be supplying the other 150, all in Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania. We'll have 2 meter stations, one for Cabot and one for Southwestern. And then as we traverse through the 4 counties in New York State, we end at the eastern border of eastern end of Schoharie County in the town of Wright. And located in the town of Wright are 2 existing interstate gas pipelines. The Tennessee Gas Pipeline and also the Iroquois Pipeline. At that point, we'll have a compressor station. It's currently sized at 32,000 horsepower. There'd be 2 compressors, 2 16,000 horsepower compressors driven by natural gas-fired fuel turbines. Then we would have 2 different metering interconnects to measure gas going into Iroquois and then going into Tennessee Gas Pipeline. And that's all at the very end of the pipeline, within a mile of our interconnects with Iroquois and Tennessee Gas. And just at that end of that, where we're connecting to, there's an existing compressor station in Schoharie County, and it's owned and operated by the Iroquois pipeline system. The main need for that compressor station is the pressure rating on the Iroquois system. By the time we get our high pressure gas in Pennsylvania, we flow 650 million cubic feet per day for 120 miles. We will not have enough pressure to get into the Iroquois system. So we need compression to get into to block the Iroquois pressure. Our current in-service date is, our planned in-service date is a little less than a year, 3 years from now, March, April 2015. Being that we're an interstate gas pipeline, and you probably heard the term FERC a lot, and FERC stands for the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. They're like kind of like the EPA, but it's another federal agency. They oversee interstate gas pipeline projects. They're our regulator. We have to answer to them. But by law, we're an open access pipeline, which allows opportunities up and down this pipeline route for tap, so people to tap into for local distribution. And that's part of our relationship we're developing with Leatherstocking, is local distribution. I first came up here in April, and I met with many counties, many towns, many affected landowners, the public, and I've said this many times before, but the message has been made crystal clear, just crystal clear, that if you're going to run a pipeline in this area, my county, my town, my land, why can't we get local distribution? I've heard the message. It's a good message, and I agree with it. I agree with that message. So that's why we're working with Leatherstocking. This is a table of the facilities that we'll have on the pipeline. Here in the pipeline is 121 miles in length here in New York State. Most of the pipeline is in New York State. It's about 98 miles. One compressor station at the very end, in the east, like I said, the eastern end of Surrey County. 2 metering stations next to the compressor station, one to get gas into the Iroquois system and one to get gas into the Tennessee gas system. Here's a map of our route, kind of a coloring map, and you can see the different counties. You can see where it starts down in Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, crosses the New York State border. And as you can see, it traverses through the 4 counties I mentioned here in New York State. And we're interconnecting the 2 pipelines, as I said, the Iroquois and Tennessee gas. And the intent is to bring gas being produced down in Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, up to this interconnect point with the Iroquois system and the Tennessee system. Iroquois to get gas into New York City, and the Tennessee system to get gas into Boston. We had a meeting last week with Amphenol, Leatherstocking. We had some state government at the meeting to talk about how much the Amphenol, if you're familiar with the Amphenol plant in Sydney, I think they employ upwards of 1,200 people. This is just a close-up shot of our pipeline. Pipeline's in yellow, Interstate 88's in the kind of the orange color. Just shows how close our pipeline is to the town of Sydney and how we could accommodate not only the Amphenol plant, but also local distribution in the town of Sydney. This year it's another opportunity for local distribution along the pipeline route. As I mentioned, we're regulated by the FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Right now we're in the pre-filing process. That's designated by the FERC. We're in the pre-filing process where we want to get public comment, local government comment into the project. Our intent is to file a formal permit application with the FERC in January. We entered into the pre-filing process in March. Did anybody, we had open houses in Delaware County and Story County 2 weeks ago. Informational open houses, open to the public, landowners, stakeholders, county, town officials. Anybody attend the open houses? But as part of, once we file a formal application or formal permit with the FERC and put together an entire permit application, including impacts to the environment, we'll be working with the FERC throughout the whole permitting process, and we're looking at getting an order, a FERC order, by November of 2013. And the FERC order will either approve or deny the project. If it is approved, we'll get a certificate to build the project. And also, now that what I mentioned about the environment and in our permit application. Also, FERC will look at the need and the purpose of the pipeline. What is it needed for? What's the purpose? Where's the market? You have customers, as we do, we have customers. The Southwestern Cab fully subscribed. The pipeline is designed for the full, for their entire flow rate. It's designed, there's no more firm capacity for our pipeline. So we have our customers signed up, but then we also have to evaluate the markets and the demand for the gas. The purpose, what's the reason for it? We have to show there's a reason, there's a purpose for the gas. But our schedule is to file a permit application in January of this year, this coming January 2013, and have a FERC order, either approving or not denying, by November of 2013. A little less than a year and a half from now. We develop a route. When we look for a route, there's about four things that we look for when we're evaluating a route. We have to take into account, obviously, the constructability of the pipeline. Can we construct it safely? In terms of during the construction process, can it be done safely? Number one, as in no one would get hurt or killed during the construction process. But can it also be constructed properly so that it can then be safely operated and maintained throughout its entire life? So we can properly operate it safely. We try to avoid populated areas. We try to reduce the impacts on residences. We try and reduce the impacts on the environment. Wetlands, threatened endangered species, archaeological, cultural resource sites, trees, a lot of trees around here. We also try to avoid, as best we can, agricultural areas, cornfields, hay fields. So it's a balancing act between, is the route constructible, the environmental impacts, the impacts on residences, the impacts on agricultural land. Just kind of sum up our project schedule. We entered into our pre-filing process. As I said, we actually were approved in March. We started ground surveys as part of the pre-filing, as part of the design of the pipeline. Ground surveys are not just civil or site surveys, but they're also environmental surveys to look for wetlands, water body crossings, threatened endangered species, cultural resource, archaeological sites. Anybody affected landowner? If you got a letter asking for survey permission? So we send out letters asking for survey permissions. And we're looking at a corridor, 600-foot wide corridor to survey. And that's not, the amount of construction workspace we need to build the pipeline is not 600 feet wide. We just want to have that wide of a corridor so then if we have to tweak the route, we can without coming back and doing survey. In terms of the right-of-way, since I'm on the right-of-way, the construction workspace in a standard field, their standard workspace is about 110 feet wide. In an agricultural field, it's a little bit wider. It's 125 feet wide. And we need that extra footage so we can do topsoil segregation. We segregate the topsoil from the subsoil. And that's so then, once we complete our construction, we put the pipe in the ditch, we put the subsoil back in, and we keep them segregated. We put the topsoil on top. So the farmer then can resume his farming again. And we also bury it a foot deeper. So the minimum in a regular area, the minimum from the top of the pipe to the ground is 3 feet. And in an agricultural field, the minimum depth is 4 feet. And that's to allow the farmer to be able to farm. We're looking at in October, as part of the pre-filing process, submit all of our draft reports to FERC. They're just draft reports, not the final reports. That would be in October. And as I said, our formal permit application in January. Looking for a FERC order in November 2013. If the order is a certificate, which means the FERC has approved the project, we would begin construction April of 2014, targeted in-service date March, April of 2015. as I said, not only is it, what about local, when I go meet with counties and towns and landowners, the main message I hear is local distribution. If you're on the pipeline through our land, our counties, why can't you have local distribution, which I agree with. Also, as we're putting a lengthy pipeline in these counties. It's an expensive pipeline, and these are our estimated property taxes per county. In Delaware County, Delaware County, where we have 43 miles of pipeline, estimated annual tax payments to the county of Delaware is $5 million. Estimated property taxes to Schoharie, and that's 34 miles of pipeline, 1 compressor station, and 2 meter stations, so 3 above ground facilities. Another $5 million to Schoharie, annual payments. In addition to economic benefits in terms of property taxes, at the Constitution Pipeline, we're developing what we call our community grant program. And we do have, and it's a community grant program, and it's funded to about $2.5 million. And where you can actually go onto our website, constitutionpipeline.com. We haven't fully vetted out the whole process yet. You basically go on our website, fill out an application for a grant up to, right now we're looking at it up to $25,000. And it's for things like emergency responders, fire department, small environmental projects in your community, youth services, youth programs, Little League baseball field, senior programs. You have to go on our website, fill out an application. We have an advisory board, 2 or 3 people per county. We've identified most of them in the counties here in New York, in Schoharie, Delaware, Chenango, and Bruin. And they'd be an advisory group, and actually they're not Constitution employees, they're not legal employees, they're a local that would oversee these applications. So that's another economic benefit, local economic benefit. This is my last slide. Who all has got a FERC, signed up for a free FERC account? Who all has subscribed to this document number for this project? Who all has gotten on there and made a comment? Who all has gotten on there and made a positive comment? I encourage you to get involved in the FERC process. You can get on FERC.gov, go into their e-library, and you can set up a free account. I think it's e-subscribe, e-subscribe, you can set up a free account. Then you can e-register your free account. E-subscribe will get you, then you put in that docket number, PM 12-9, no spaces. So PS then pre-filing 12-9. And you can also file comments. Don't get very many positive comments. I think up to date, with all the open houses we had 2 weeks ago, we had 5 open houses, 1 per county. And we get and FERC has comment cards. They post the comment cards to this docket number. Most of them were negative. So I encourage you to get involved. Either way, you get involved in the FERC process.
Most people didn't know about it.
About what? Well, it was the way we go about the open houses is we have a stakeholder list, which is made up of county, local government, state government. We have a landowner list, and they all get affected landowners on a 600-foot wide survey corridor. And not just for, we have our primary route, which I show on the slide here. We also have, I think we're on alternate queue right now. We do it by the letter, so I don't know how many numbers that we're probably at 20 alternates. We have 20 alternates. Some of those we identify landowners. So we have a landowner list. We invite the landowner. And then also we do put it in the newspaper when the open houses are. We have 5. However, It's not your final chance. What happens after the open houses, which we had 2 weeks ago, FERC will have, as part of the pre-filing process, they'll have scoping meetings. And they dictate that schedule. It looks like the middle of September. And they'll probably have, I'm guessing 3. One in Schoharie County because of the compressor station at the end of the pipeline. One probably in the western end of Delaware County, and then one down in Pennsylvania, in Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania. And if you subscribe to this docket number, you subscribe for an account, and you deregister for an account, you subscribe to that docket number, you'll get a notice of intent from FERC telling you when and where the public meetings are, what they call the scoping meetings. And if you've come to our open houses, which were 2 weeks ago, they were they're more informal. It was not. Yeah.
What's the purpose of the scoping?
Okay, I was going to get there. Okay, on our open houses, it's an informal setting where you can have one-on-one conversations with some of our company experts. Either it be safety, engineering, operations, construction, land, so you can have one-on-one discussion. That's the whole point. The point is not to make a big presentation and have anybody grandstand. It's to have the people who really want to get information about the pipeline that get that information on a one-on-one, two-on-one, whatever that is, a much more informal setting. First scoping meetings are very formal. They'll actually have a transcriber, and you'll have a microphone. There'll be a microphone. You can address your comments and questions at these first scoping meetings, either pro or against, or just a question. You can just have a question. Yes, sir.
Yeah. What's the status of the proposed alternate routes where you're considering looking at maybe going along EID?
We're working on that right now. The EID route.
Yeah.
We're engineering that alternate right now.
So will there be more meetings held?
That could happen because it's that far off our current route that it could create another Constitution open house. That could happen. Also, when we submitted a couple of reports to FERC in May, and they came out after our reports came out and told us to look at the 88 route, which we're doing.
I have a question on when there's a natural disaster, there's a floods, earthquakes, what will be impacted, and how do you prepare if something goes wrong?
I mean a flood. You mean after the pipeline's built? We would have an operations staff up here. Our estimate for an operations staff on the whole 120 miles is about a 10-person staff. So they would take care of. If we had a flood, one of the biggest things in flood, we know where the flood areas are. Typically what we do is we concrete coat the pipe for weight to keep the pipe from coming up. So we weight it down. But then with a flood, you could get exposed pipe. At that point, it's one of the number one responsibilities or concerns of our operations department is to unexpose the pipe, cover it back up. So we don't want, the last thing we want is exposed pipe. That could happen in a flood. Earthquake. We have a geological consultant who we hire, and they look in this area at different fault lines along the pipeline. If they consider a fault line serious enough, they know how to give us, they have recommendations to give us on how to design the pipe to withstand an earthquake or a fault. And there could be things like thicker wall pipe, special padding material around the pipe so with the vibration that you don't damage the pipe. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, infrastructure damage for roads and bridges, who pays? You do?
Yes. We're liable for any damage. What we do is, not only do we videotape the pipeline right away, we'll videotape access. We have to have access roads to get our heavy equipment and our pipe onto our right of way. So we'll be using access roads. We will get permits from counties and towns. We'll get their permit requirements. We'll bond if we have to. Then we videotape the road. It's our responsibility to bring the roads back to as is or better pre-construction conditions. It's our responsibility.
Actually, that would go on as is, the roads are crappy anyhow, so you get a liability isn't that great.
Well, if we identify a very important access road where we need to get on the right of way, we will upgrade the road so our equipment can get on the right of way before you even get there.
These things aren't designed to take trucks.
Well, then we would find roads that are either designed for it or we'd upgrade them.
So that would mean if you live on a gravel road, you'd upgrade it to paved.
I'm not saying that. But what we do is we go to counties and towns, we get the permit requirements, we get their permits, we bond if they require it, we videotape the roads. Also, when we build the pipeline and we cross roads, especially asphalted roads, I mean there'll be small farming roads, but on main asphalted roads, we bore underneath it. We do not open cut the road. We bore underneath it. Yes.
How many property owners are affected?
Right now, not including the alternate M, which is 88, with all our other alternates, which go through Q minus N, there's about 1,300.
Is that just New York?
No, New York and Pennsylvania.
And of that 1,300, how many have given you permission to survey?
Right now, we're about 70%.
Are there various routes online somewhere we can look at different routes, A through N or Q or whatever?
They come out in our resource report, environmental, this is a FERC name, nomenclature, environmental resource report we send to FERC. We do have, when we have all of our alternates up on our GIS, on our mapping system. We've gotten that request about showing all of our alternates and our current routing on our website, like our constitution.pipeline.com website. And if you can just imagine how much scrutiny and opinions and advice we'd be getting, we'd get nowhere if we had to do that. If we showed all the routes, we'd be getting so many opinions. So we're going through all the alternates and our primary route and figuring out which is the best alternate from a constructability, environmental, residential, and agricultural perspective.
Is the primary route map someplace that's accessible to the
Yeah.
public?
Well, I mean, if you go on our constitutionpipeline.com, we have the map per county. You can get a little more detail on that. Actually, we have given to all five counties. I don't know what they've done with the drawings. I asked them to keep them at the clerk's office. And I've given them to towns also. Towns, not just counties, but towns. Our maps, our route maps, and it's only mostly the primary route, shows a 600-foot wide corridor, and it shows the landowner names and their tracts. And and also at the open houses that we had, we did show the alternates. You could have come and looked at the alternates, seen our primary route and looked at the alternates, including property owners, property tax tracts, and the 600-foot wide survey.
I just wanted to point out that even though 70% of the landowners have given you permission to survey, that doesn't mean that 70% of the people support the project.
The quick question is, just because 70% of the people have given us permission to survey land doesn't mean 70% of the people of the landowners support the project. Yes.
They have specific property interests, like they want you to know where their well is.
Yes.
Pipeline.
Yes.
You have to
Yes.
let people know that pipelines have no federal setback. They could be, very close to
Well,
people's houses.
there is no federal setback, but that doesn't mean that we're not gonna have a setback. It doesn't mean Constitution Pipeline is not gonna have a setback. Let me just say one thing with that. We have a staff of 40 land agents up and down on 120 miles of pipeline that we're working with, that are working with landowners. 40 land agents. So we're working in good faith to work with our landowners. First with survey permissions and then eventually move on to easements. We go in a different direction for a second. I was going to say one more thing about land acres.
Okay, my question is, you stated you're in favor of local access. What does it mean that you're in favor? Does that mean that there will be local access?
We are working in that direction, yes. I mean, working with Joe Marazzo and others talk. Yeah.
Why wouldn't I set Peter?
Can't answer that question. Others talking stepped up to the plate.
You define what you mean by open access line. Everybody understands that.
We're an interstate gas pipeline, regulated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC. By law, we don't have a choice. By law, if someone wants to tap into our pipeline and they do it properly, they go through the proper protocol. For example, an LDC company gets town approval for an LDC system in their town, and then they get approval by the New York Public Service Commission. And they follow our specs and standards and tap into, to safely and properly tap into our pipeline. We have to allow them to tap our pipeline. We'd actually put the tap in ourselves, but by law, open access. And another thing about that is, we're just transporting the gas. We're transporting the gas from Susquehanna County, Scurry County. We don't own the gas. We're like a trucking company. We don't own the gas. Cabot and Southwestern own the gas. They produce the gas and they'll market the gas. We provide them a transportation service for 121 miles. I think there are a couple of questions over here.
What about when you damage the home landowner's property? You're going to pay for damage goods, or you're going to pay
For what?
for damage goods?
What do you mean damage?
When you damage the landowner's property.
I mean if we damage a barn or something?
Or the house,
It's our liability.
and you're going to pay for good damage goods or damage goods?
What,
The Millennium Pipeline did that. They paid for damaged goods. They didn't pay for good damaged goods.
I mean, if we damage,
How many years have they-
if during the construction process we damage your property, it's our liability to pay for it. It's our
We have to do for
responsibility.
the Millennium.
I'm not with Millennium, but Constitution Pipeline is responsible for any damages to your property. Not just known damages, like if we take down some trees, we pay for the trees. But you talk about unforeseen things like damaging your barn.
Damage the foundation of the house, septic.
It's our responsibility. If we cause the damage, it's our responsibility.
You're going to pay for good damaged goods or bad damage?
I think the answer to your question is good. We'll pay what you're owed, what we damaged.
So I want to go back to land agents. I think most people here know what that means. That means over 1,000 private people's property. They're being approached right now by land agents with a big fat club of eminent domain held over those people's heads. You sign this or else we'll take it.
That's
We will
strictly,
take it.
ma'am, that's strictly hearsay. That's strictly hearsay.
That is not
No,
hearsay.
that's not what our land agents are doing.
They
What our
are.
land agents are doing is,
They are. Do you think
It's
those
being-
1,000
our-
people want
keep it
this?
civil, please.
Excuse me, do I have the floor or not?
Be
Do
civil.
you think those people want a high-pressure, dangerous pipeline on their property? No, they don't. Nobody in their right mind would. And
I
We
want
got one.
to, please, let me address your question about this eminent domain club. This eminent domain club, or the eminent domain flag. Our land agents are not doing that. Now what probably happens is, they go to a landowner, to their home, and the landowner starts asking questions. They'll start asking questions. They'll say, what if you get a certificate from the FERC? FERC approved your project. And what if I don't, I refuse to sign your easement, but the pipeline's going through your property. What if I refuse to sign the easement, period? We'll still try and negotiate. We negotiate good faith. We have appraisers out here that are appraising at fair value. We appraise land, we appraise crops, we appraise timber, and we offer fair value to that easement and the damages to your timber and your crops.
but that whole piece of property loses value when you put that pipeline through it. You don't make up
And
for
an
that.
environmental assessment just came out on the Transco Northeast Supply Link project, just came out from FERC. And it stated, there was a statement in there, there's no evidence that a natural gas pipeline lowers the value of a home. There's no, it's a statement in Northeast Supply Link, go to the environment, look at the environmental assessment, read
That's
the
what's
word.
going to happen if somebody wants to buy my 130 acres of beautiful organic farmland, and I say there's a high
We
pressure
have done
pipeline
research.
across the
We
middle of it.
have
You
done-
know what would happen, and I know what would happen, and
I don't-
everybody in this audience knows
I'm
what
in
would happen.
disagreement with you. I respectfully disagree with you that it does not impact the land value. Yes, sir.
Outside of the direct tax benefit that you talked about and the grant program that you're having, in other pipelines, have you done any kind of post-economic impact?
Yeah, we do it. We do it
You know,
as part of
caps for access and things like that?
as part of the environmental resource reports. There's a socioeconomic report. Right now, we have an outside consultant doing an economic report or assessment. It's called an economic impact. I call it actually an economic benefit study. Construction workers in the area, operations staff in the area, all the travel of all for the next 3 or 4 years of Williams and Constitution employees coming up and staying in hotels, going to dinners. All those benefits.
Now, do you see a pushback from the DOT because the I-88 corridor seems to
We
make a lot of sense?
have been in discussion with DOT for 2 months now. And it's not, I mean, it's not fast. That's all I'll say.
Is there any information on the landowner's property that you have gone over in the past? Have they continued to use the land for agricultural purposes?
Yes, that's the whole point of topsoil
Do
segregation.
you have evidence of
Oh, yeah.
that say they don't continue to do that?
Williams' biggest interstate gas pipeline is the Transco pipeline. Starts in South Texas, ends in New York City. It provides 60% of the gas that's being used in the Philadelphia, Newark, New York City area. And we go through a lot of rural areas up the eastern seaboard, a lot of farms, and there are cornfields right over our pipeline. Do it all the time. You had your
Who monitors the tapping?
monitor the what?
The tapping into the Constitution pipeline. When there are local people who want to tap into it, who monitors that?
You mean the physical tapping?
Yes.
We do it. No,
And who monitors when you do it, but who monitors it?
monitors for what? For to make sure it's done properly, physically?
Yes, absolutely.
That's Williams does it. We tap our line all the time. We do it all the time. Williams has 15,000 miles of interstate gas pipeline. We tap our lines all the time.
You know there's a 3 to 10% methane leak, you know that,
In what?
from the gas.
I mean, the gas from where? From a tap?
No, not from the tap.
The tap is straight, it's all welded. It's all welded. It's all welded and it's X-ray.
I have a question about capacity. I know we're not supposed to talk about multi-million-dollar issue, frankly, but nonetheless, it's been indicated by people in the news that this particular pipe, although you call it what it's described,
Right.
actually that's about half its capacity, which means, but it means twice as much through. Obviously, the concern is why here.
Where are you coming up with this? It's only half the truck.
This is something apparently that a Williams employee indicated.
Not for firm transportation. Not for firm. For firm transportation. To guarantee.
Okay, then, say this. Are you saying that that is the absolute maximum capacity for that pipe?
That's the way the pipeline is designed. 30-inch pipeline, 121 miles, 32,000 horsepower pressure station. That's
So you're
what
saying,
we have designed it for.
you're saying categorically, were there to be some form of a hydrocracker, that you wouldn't be able to tap into your pipeline?
By law, if things are done right, by law, people can tap into our line for supply, and they can tap in for distribution.
Well, that's not quite the same thing. If they can tap into it by law, you still think they don't have the capacity to deal with it.
No, we do not have to provide that capacity. What happens is, here's what happens. Cabot Southwestern, we've designed it for 650 million cubic feet per day, a flow rate. 121 miles of 30-inch pipe. They have firm transportation. They're guaranteed that transportation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year round. If anybody wants to supply gas into the pipeline, since we're open access and we can't deny them, they're going at risk and they'll have interruptible capacity at risk. If it's not available, Cabot and Southwestern will be flowing their 650 million a day. They can put nothing, they can tap our line, but they can't flow into our line.
I was told by a FERC representative at the last meeting that exactly what this gentleman said, that the line itself could hold double the gas that you've got in it. I understand that you designed it with a certain amount of compressors and a certain amount of gas going through it, but if you added compressors, at least this is my understanding from the senior FERC advisor at the open house, that this pipeline could hold double the gas, which in my mind says that's an invitation to hydrofracking, which you don't want to talk about because most people don't want it. Certainly
I'll address
if you added extra compressors.
I have an answer. I'm not going to talk about fracking, but I have an answer to your question. Yeah, you can put more compression. If we were to build this pipeline, have it in service in 2015, 121 miles and one compressor station, we can flow 650 million standard cubic feet per day. But we can expand the pipeline. We could put in more compression and increase that 650 maybe by 250 or 350. But if that were to happen, we have to go through the same part process we're going through right now. We have to go through the same thing we're going through now. We start from zero, and it'd be an expansion project regulated by the FERC, just like this project is regulated by the FERC.
It would be much easier than this process.
It's what?
It would be much easier, I was advised, than this process.
I mean, it's 121 miles of greenfield pipeline and compressor station has much more of an environmental impact than adding a couple of compressors to a compressor station. Yes, that to me is obvious. But we still have to go through the FERC process.
So it's not fully subscribed, really. All
Yes,
you
it
have
is.
to do is
Yes, it
add a compressor station, and we could have a whole big mess of hydrofracking.
Right now, we have no plans. Right now, we have no plans. That is a scenario that FERC came out. We have no plans to expand the pipeline. There is no plans to expand the pipeline. Could it happen in the future? That's speculation. Yes, it could.
Step one.
It could
Step two,
happen.
3, 4, I hear it.
How big a customer do you have to be for you can tie into the pipeline? You have to be a school, can the farmers that you're going to, can they tie into it?
Well, no, it's got to be done properly. I don't know the exact rules, but here's what I'm thinking is, you would have to go to the town. You talk about distribution.
Yep.
Right, you're talking about local distribution.
Yes.
You would have to go to the town, get approved by the town, get approved by the New York Public Service Commission, and show that you're setting up a proper distribution. Like a farmer can't just tap into our line.
Right. But I mean, disregard the rules, and once you follow all the rules, is it physically possible for a small user to tap into the line or no?
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you'd have to pay. You're going to have to put in a meter station. You have to measure the gas. You're going to have to regulate it down.
Right.
We're at 1400 PSI. You have to regulate it down. You got to odorize it. It's got to be odorized. You probably got to heat the gas because when you regulate it, the pressure and temperature is going to drop. You got to heat it
So practically speaking, what do you got to be before you can tie into your line?
practically, like financially.
Yeah.
I don't know those exact numbers. I don't know if you have a town. I can't tell you if you have a town of 100 or a town of 1,000. I don't know those exact dollar figures.
We put in tap leather stocking, and they're going to cost around $600,000 pop. So for one farm tap, probably not going to be practical.
I understand that if the I-88 corridor option was considered, that it would be subject to different standards of construction and maintenance, and probably that might be more expensive, and could you just address that? And if so, if it's going to be more expensive to construct and operate, how would that likely impact the viability of that ultimately?
We actually haven't gone through the whole evaluation process, so we haven't finalized our route, the alternate route on 88. We haven't finalized that route. So,
But are there different standards of construction?
well, are you alluding to, when it comes to the project, we're regulated by the FERC. When it comes to design, operation, and maintenance of the pipeline, we're regulated by the Federal Department of Transportation. And they have flat locations depending on the population density. It's class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4. The greater the population density, the higher the class.
So the fact that it's in a highway, right of way. would
What's it
be-
got to do with population density?
Okay, well, that.
And by the way, even if you're in a class 1 location, if you're in a class 1 location is that 660 feet on, or 200 meters on both sides of the pipeline, if they're within a mile, perpendicular, 200 meters on each side, and 1 mile, if there's less than 9 residences, you're class 1. Between 9 and 49, you're class 2. Then you go to class 3. All of our pipe will be designed to class 2. Even if it's in a class 1 location, it just makes sense from a business perspective. So all of our pipe will be designed to class 2.
Then you were misrepresented in the Daily Star, because a recent article stated that if you take the alternate route, it would become a class 4 regulated, and it would cost you far more than if it's in the original route, which would be class 1 pipeline. So that's where we're getting this information, is we're reading it in the local paper.
I think we need to clear that up.
I agree.
But Route 88 is a class 4 zone.
Depends on how close you are to 88. Depends on how close you are to 88, because if you look at 88, we can't be right on the right, we can't be, when you mean, you're saying 88 is class 4. What's the distance?
That's my understanding of it.
Oh, if I'm 1,000 feet off of 88, am I still class 4?
I don't know.
I don't think I am. I think we'd be class 2 or class 3.
But you can't, you're not scheduled for class 3.
If we're in a class 2 location, we're going to go to class 3. We're going to, it just makes sense, because if there's it's a single line system. It makes sense that we build to one class higher, because a single line system, if a class 1 location grows in population, it grows from, it's right now it's got 7 people in a mile, and it goes to 10. We've got to replace the pipe. We build a class 1, we got to go from class 1 to class 2.
I'm sorry.
So we're going to build it as class 2.
I was responding to that newspaper article too. I was confused about that. So I just want to ask one more piece of information, if I may. Every